You almost don't know what alignment is until you feel what alignment isn't. And when you know what alignment isn't, you're like, well, I'm not doing that again.
I had all of a sudden decided that because somebody told me I should be prospecting and I should be having a funnel and I should be, having a jerk client experience journey. I agree. Those are all wonderful things, right? But I use them as weapons against myself of like more facts for how unworthy I am. It just kept building and building and building and building. And truly the only thing that set me free from that quarter or so of just being blocked and feeling like a failure was sharing it. Something that I think most people would want to hide because it's embarrassing, or you're literally saying like, I'm raising my hand, I failed. in case you're wondering, I'm not that great. But it really attracted, it was amazing. I got to tell you, a couple weeks later, I got a request for this huge hospital system wanting for me to come in. And they said, the president read your post and asked me to reach out to you directly. And I said, oh, would you mind sharing what post it was? And it was literally a post of me talking about how every morning I wake up thinking I'm a loser. If anybody's thinking about, oh, I need to go get some vulnerable posts out there right now, just be prepared that just because your intention is to share it from a place of growth and empowerment doesn't mean that everyone's going to receive it that way. They're going to receive it as they are.
Welcome to Unlock My Coach, a podcast for seasoned, soulful, and successful coaches. In every episode, you'll hear incredible stories from coaches who are building their brands and making their mark in the booming $20 billion coaching industry. Who am I? Stacey Gonzalez, your host and founder of Unlock, a digital marketing and personal branding agency that helps coaches launch, market, and grow their businesses. Ready to unlock your coach? I know I've got your key in here somewhere. Welcome. Today, we are thrilled to have MaryBeth Hyland with us on the show. MaryBeth works with high-achieving executives and entrepreneurs who are ready to shift from burnout to breakthrough. And through her powerful approach, which is rooted in core values alignment, she really empowers her clients to gain more freedom, more flow, and best of all, more wealth by embracing self-awareness, self-compassion, and healthy boundaries. With a blend of self-care and permission to be truly human, which we all need much, much more of, MaryBeth guides her clients towards a sustainable sense of well-being that really honors their authentic selves. So get ready. Today is going to be an inspiring conversation that just might help you unlock your own path to balance and authenticity. So MaryBeth, welcome and thank you for being here today.
Such a joy to be with you.
So we're going to start real easy. I'm going to give you a softball. Tell us a little bit about how you define an executive alignment coach and what that really means.
Yeah. So I think a lot of times we throw out the word alignment as kind of like almost intangible, right? It's like, oh, let's be in alignment. It sounds really clear, like, oh, you're perfectly in the line, but it sometimes is like can feel really hard to define and to understand what does that actually look like. And so for me, I do that through core values alignment. So let's say you had a core value of authenticity. What does it actually look like to show up authentically for yourself, right? So what does it look like to set boundaries that are truly authentic, not based on what other people expect of you or what you've always done forever? And even though it drains you and creates a sense of like really a hard energetic pull of like, this is not it, right? I think that so many of us have had experiences where like, this is not it, but we don't know what it is. And so that's actually the process of getting in alignment and harnessing, utilizing your core values as the way to getting there. I just had a huge deer run past the window on this side. So I'm hoping that we have some good animal medicine show up in the show today.
Oh, I love that. I hope so too. We're here. We're all are welcome. All are welcome. So executive and alignment. business and spirituality. Been thinking a lot about this and the work that we do as well for clients to really bring the essence of who they are, but into this space of, business where it's pretty agnostic. And sometimes people are a little hesitant to kind of walk down some of those deeper paths. So, what does that look like for you? And how did you kind of find the space to marry those two?
Yeah, I love that question because, I wrote a book called Permission to Be Human: The Conscious Leader's Guide to Creating a Values-Driven Culture. And when I wrote it, a lot of people said to me, "This is such a great spiritual book," and I was like, This isn't the spirit. Like, this is not a book based on spirituality." But it was just the way in which you can truly engage with your core values is a spiritual experience if you choose it to be, right? Like, if you move out of it has to be an intellectual assignment and sort of moving more into the soul, because our values live in our heart, right? They are what helps us to know if we are feeling alive and energized and in purpose, or if we're feeling completely sucked dry and completely out of alignment, right? And so it's almost like this natural path from values to spirituality for those who are ready to see it, right? And what's so awesome is that for those who aren't quite ready yet, it's a wonderful opening, because a lot of times people ask me, like, why do you love values work so much? And it's actually not the values themselves that get me really excited. It's the entire world that values unlock for us. It's like we already have the language, we already know what it is. I'm just helping people to remember, right? By going deeper into their own truth of that process. And so it can be this incredible emotional intelligence tool, because as soon as you start just talking to people about, well, if that really matters to you, that's something that really drives and motivates you, how do you define it for yourself? You know, what is an example of how that was a huge milestone moment for you, or a time where that value was really violated and you felt awful as a result? Like, let's start using those values as the tool to harness and sort of curate and uncover the history of your values in that kind of a way that can very much be an intellectual process at first, when the first time you're going about doing it. But over time, you recognize, like, wow, this can be an incredible divine experience in being able to kind of look backwards and see how it all really does make sense looking back.
It really sounds like values become the doorway or the opening to a deeper sense of contemplation, a deeper sense of understanding self. We talk a lot about, oh, here's our five core values, and we slap them on our website, and
Yep.
we kind of, maybe give them lip service, but we don't actually know or take the time or space or the care to truly embody them and figure out what they mean for us. What does success look like for you when you kind of enter this work? Because one of the things that we're really doing is we want to empower more coaches to take on those steps, to kind of step out and to do the work that they're really aligned with and they feel they're called to do. So for you, as a person who has kind of taken this journey into this entrepreneurship, into this coaching world, how have you done that, and what does success mean to you?
I love this question, because as somebody who is a coach, and that's really a primary part of what I do now, it didn't just start this way. I really began my journey as an entrepreneur almost a decade ago now, doing all the things that other people thought that I was really good at. So, I mean, I just mentioned, like, I wrote a whole book on it. I was doing culture change work with hospitals, with universities, with like large institutions, which I was quote unquote really good at. But the reality was, it was sucking me dry. Like, I was
Mm.
doing work that I was effective at, that I could be successful, quote unquote, in by other people's metrics of success. But when I was feeling so drained, the energy in me was just completely sucked dry, because I was working with so many people who were forced to work with me versus like them choosing to work with me. It was like, here's the problem, children, let's get them on board. And it was 9 out of 10 times a very successful coaching experience where they came around. But energetically, I'm in a different place now where what success means to me. That was great for me when I first started because it was like 6-figure contracts, multi-year contracts with organizations. And so it was like, check, financial stability, I'm a success.
Yes, yes.
Versus what is my energy telling me every day? Am I truly, just because I'm teaching people how to be in alignment with your values doesn't mean I'm in alignment with my values, right? So it came to a point where after years and years and years of doing that work, I was paid. It was right after the pandemic when people started like coming back together. And an organization that I had been working with asked me to come in and do a retreat for their top executives, which I did. All the things you could possibly hope that would go well went well. Like it was checked all the boxes for success. And I left that room. I looked at my partner. I said, I'm never doing that again.
Mm.
And it was
Mm.
like, why?
What?
And it was because the first 2 hours of the day of a retreat was me convincing people to pay attention to what I had to say.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's not success to me anymore.
Yeah.
Right. And so, I really now define success around being able to show up authentically in my gifts and to make a difference as a result. Right. And not to, have an experience where I feel like I have to compromise on my own authenticity in order to do that. So even just the language, right? The language that I would use in different settings like hospitals and universities was much more corporate. And not to say that I couldn't get in my own authentic voice in the process, but there was a lot of like side eye and like, we don't talk that way around here kind of vibes that were being sent back, even though they would become believers on the journey. Um, Success now is people who are like, I'm really interested in that, what you're talking about. And I would love to have you as a guide, right? Like I'm invested in that. So I would say that that's one of my greatest successes right now in my business is that all of my clients are now soulmate clients. There's no compromising on that because somebody has a budget that um, is going to create a different level of financial quote unquote success. But instead figuring out, how do you create the wealth overall that what financial is a piece of that wealth.
I love that. So allowing yourself though to go through the early experiences where it's what's coming up for me is like you almost don't know what alignment is until you feel what alignment isn't. And when you know what alignment isn't, you're like, well, I'm not doing that again, right? And it's not that the people weren't wonderful people. It's not that they weren't able to do good work. I mean, they're in hospitals, they're in healthcare, right? They have a mission, they have a purpose. That's not it. But what I have found is that as we could, especially to choose to become a coach, to choose to become an entrepreneur, it is to choose to refine the self. And as you refine the self and as you go inward and you go deeper, what comes up externally is continually more and more revealed to you. At least that's how it seems. At least that's how it seems to me.
Oh, 100% agree. Yes, absolutely. Your own evolution is absolutely a part of what you ultimately get to do to serve others.
Yeah, right. And so as you think about those, early years when you were just getting started and you kind of look back on that Mary Beth, 7 years ago, 10 years ago, and who you were then, what kind of, I don't really like to say mistakes, but areas that like these were really good lessons for you. What were some of the mindset shifts or some of the things that you're like, oh, if I had to do that again, I certainly wouldn't do it this way.
Yeah. I would say mindset is the biggest piece. So I was really fortunate in that before I stepped out on my own, I had a really solid and powerful network. And so I was able to blossom in my business within just a couple of months of going out on my own from a again, box checking success. Like I had replaced
Yeah.
my income. I had lots of interest. I had really great, like global level partnerships. But then I didn't.
Mm.
And so I started off in this like this is so easy,
This is
Even if it's not
check.
the
Yeah.
work I want to ultimately doing, I'm
Yeah.
replacing my income, right? So like that was kind of the mindset. And then I had gone on and I'd hired an outsourced CFO, and she started talking to me about, well, like who's in your pipeline? Who's like the next big contract that's going to replace the one that's coming to an end? And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, that's not really how I roll. Like, I just manifest this work, and it comes with ease and grace. I do good work comes back to me. Right. And then it didn't. And then I had a period of, I don't know, I'd say a quarter maybe, where I just felt like a loser every single day. I would wake up
Mhm.
every single morning and just beat myself up about, of course my CFO was right. What an idiot am I to think I could just manifest this? Like, of course this is really hard, and no one's ever going to want to hire you again. You just got lucky. Like all of those awful things that we tend to say to ourselves that we would never say to someone we love. And so I went into a really deep, dark place of just feeling like, am I good enough? Am I enough? Am I worthy of this? Is this ever going to come back around? And how I can say this now, almost a decade later, is like, I was manifesting it, and it was coming with ease and grace. And the reason that the flow was blocked, right, was because I had changed my mindset. I had all of a sudden
Mm.
decided that because somebody told me I should be prospecting, and I should be having a funnel, and I should be, having a jerk client experience journey. I agree. Those are all wonderful things, right? But I use them as weapons against myself, of like more facts for how unworthy I am. It just kept building and building and building and building. And truly the only thing that set me free from that quarter or so of just being blocked and feeling like a failure was sharing it. So I started to
Mm.
share that experience in my writing and with my community, and um, something that I think most people would want to hide because it's embarrassing, or you're literally saying like, I'm raising my hand, I failed. In case you're wondering, I'm not that great. Um, but it was in a way that was really human, right? It was just talking about the human experience. And this was before so many people were sharing as vulnerably on social media. And so it really stood out in a different way. I think it's beautiful how many more people are doing that now. Um, but it really it was amazing. I got to tell you, a couple weeks later, I got a request for this huge hospital system wanting for me to come in. And they said, the president read your post and asked me to reach out to you directly. And I said, oh, would you mind sharing what post it was? And it was literally a post of me talking about how every morning I wake up thinking I'm a loser.
So, right, what's the lesson? Because those posts, as a content creator and as somebody who looks for there's a very delicate balance when
Mm-hmm.
it comes to creating vulnerable, true content.
Totally.
Because if it comes from a place of I'm a victim,
Yes.
then it doesn't the energy of that content does not resonate. But
True.
if it comes from the place of this is my current external reality and I'm doing the best I can right now to
Yeah.
like see the light I can't see, and I'm going to share it with you despite the fact that it's really kind of hard right now, there's a beauty that is birthed from that honesty and that rawness that makes people say, yes. And it's not about the words, it's about the energy, the resonance of
Yes.
what you've shared, which is what he must have felt. It's what he
Yeah.
felt.
And I love that you put that out there, because there's a really big difference between sharing something from a place of low vibration, right? Of like judgment or victimhood or feeling like, woe is me and I just want some pity, to like, I'm a human too. And maybe you've gone through something like this in your version. It's interesting. I actually broke my arm last week. And so I've been sharing about it and sharing about the process. And it's been so fascinating to just witness the way people respond, because I'm sharing about how challenging it is, but I'm also sharing about what I'm doing to move through those challenges. And it's like some people receive it and they're like, wow, that's so amazing. I'm so glad that you're able to alchemize this experience. And then there's people that are like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. That's so horrible. Why do all these horrible things happen to you all the time? Like, man, it's like your life is so
Yeah.
hard, right? Which they mean well, right? They
Yes.
mean well, but it tells me so much about where they are and how they can even receive that kind of a share. So, if anybody's thinking about, oh, I need to go get some vulnerable posts out there right now, just be prepared that just because your intention is to share it from a place of growth and empowerment doesn't mean that everyone's going to receive it that way. They're going to receive it as they are.
That's right. That's right. And it's also they also sometimes are going to say something or reflect back to you what you did not necessarily know was there.
Oh, yeah.
And that can be really, really challenging. So it takes a lot of courage and it takes a lot of bravery to put yourself out there in a way. But the reward, the personal insights that we get, and then the connections we make is so, so worth it. So you kind of walked us through, right, that those early stages to where you're at now. When you think about the vision of the future, if I would say, okay, the Mary Beth 7 years from now, if I was talking to her, what would she say the vision that you have now has brought you to? And where do you think that's headed?
My company is called Spark Vision, and a reason for that is that I've always had a really clear vision. I've been very fortunate. I know that that's a gift. It can be more challenging for people, but it's always come very naturally for me to see, like, this is the vision, this is the next step, this is the next step. I'm actually speaking to you from my vision right now. I had this vision of I am on our family ranch, a 100-acre ranch in the mountains of Idaho, and I live in Baltimore City otherwise. And it's been a vision for years and years and years. It's been my retirement dream to be living out here. And I never could figure out how to make that work because this was fully off grid. There was no internet or cell reception. It's really far from town. So just to go up and down the driveway is 15 minutes.
Hmm.
So it's like really remote. And so I had this vision of one day I will be running my business, coaching clients, having retreats, having these amazing immersive experiences from this ranch. And that might be when I'm retired, but one day, right? And then long story short, the pandemic happened and this vision became a reality 2 years ago. This is the first year that we've been out here. Um, we being my husband and I, who we run the business together, I'm talking to you from a 200 square foot tiny home in this beautiful valley on our ranch here, and it's happening. It's like it's happened. So, when I even think about 7 years from now, I'm like, oh my gosh, the thing that I thought was going to happen 30 years from now is happening now, right? This was like a retirement dream, so it's happening 30 years early. And 7 years from now, the Mary Beth that there looking back, I think would just say, like, keep taking it one step at a time, keep moving forward into this dream, like keep finding the ways to create more healing experiences, not only for yourself, but for those who are open to receiving them. I really believe deeply in the medicine of these mountains out here. And I know there's going to be a big shift in time of us having more people physically coming here and experiencing it through retreats and more deep intensive coaching in those experiences, but using Mother Nature as one of our biggest teacher, having her as the queen of the experience. And even just saying something like that, if I think about Mary Beth was doing hospitals and universities, like, she was not talking about Mother Nature being the queen facilitator of the retreat.
Yeah. Right, 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 right.
So, Mary Beth 7 years from now, I trust is going to step even more deeply into sort of more of that goddess energy. and having more power and faith around attracting those who are here to receive that and to ignite their own goddess energy, right? Or whatever it
Yes.
is that it feels right for them to be really reclaiming their power in that way. And so I trust a big part of the vision too is this past summer I did something wild, and I've been working with horses for a long time, but I never had my own horses. And I got to go on a month-long experience to gentle wild Mustangs in Montana. And now the Mustang that I work with, Norby, he's ours. And we also adopted another sensitive horse here. And I know they're going to be a huge part of our healing out here, you know? So last year I partnered on an equine retreat at Miraval. For those who are familiar, if you're not, check it out. It's an incredible retreat space in Arizona. And we created the woman Lucinda, who leads their horse programming. We created a retreat together over a week, and she's going to help me figure out how to do that with my horses here, and how to create like sound healing experiences with the horses, and get people to activate more self-awareness through connection with the horses. And like that was like not even on my radar, you know, like it was always a part of my soul and my heart. And it feels like the MaryBeth in 7 years is going to just be even more braided into, like woven into the core fabric of who I've always been meant to be, to step into that power, and doing that by letting go of other people's expectations of what it should be.
Thank you for sharing that vision. When you kind of started speaking of it, I started seeing along the driveway. I don't know what the driveway looks like that you mentioned, but I could start to see areas of spaces popping up along that path, and more buildings or more areas of space. So
Oh, I
I am
love
totally
that.
here with you. I'm here for all of
I
this.
love that.
Sounds amazing. And those are we are entering back to this feminine return, to this space of connection with self, connection with our intuition. And it doesn't mean just for women, but many of the people who um I think we're in the US in particular, we're hitting, just a deeper crunching down, so that deeper rising up is going to happen. And I think your space, the spaces of others who, are building these types of connected spaces in healing earth is really going to be an important part. Okay. So as you think about that, and as you think about your messaging, and one of the things that is really challenging many times at first, and you kind of mentioned it, right? Like complicated marketing funnels and websites, and putting content out there. Like, how do you think about your branding, the importance of that, putting your messages into the world? What does that look like and mean to you, and how do you kind of consider that as you're building a business?
Yeah, so I think especially as a coach, it can feel very vulnerable when you start branding yourself because you're the product, right? And so it's not
Yes.
like you're selling a widget that, okay, if somebody doesn't like it, it's like personal to a certain extent, depending on where you are on your individual journey, right? I used to take everything so personally. Now I'm like, oh, that's cool. Whatever it is great. And so the branding process for me, it was a real struggle in the beginning because I felt like I was still in a little tug of war between who I am authentically. I'm like a bold, splashy, bright colors kind of person. Um, and what was acceptable in the corporate space, right? Would someone look at my website and think, well, she's not professional because who uses orange and turquoise and pink watercolor all over there? It's the inner judgment so ready and available, right? Versus like even just, that was all a story that I was telling myself. None of that was necessarily true. Who knows? Maybe corporations would have loved it if they saw that. And that was the biggest thing for my hang up, was just me telling myself that it wasn't my authentic self was not professional in those spaces.
Mm.
And so it really impacted my branding. So in the beginning of my journey, I definitely played it safe in feeling like, okay, I can mute that down a little bit more. And but when I had my first photo shoot ever, I cried. I cried leading up to it. I cried afterwards because I felt so uncomfortable about
Mm-hmm.
being on camera and being judged based on what I looked like, and feeling like there was so much pressure in doing it right. And now I'm like, how many photo shoots can I do this year? I could do one today, like I love it now, right? But it was a journey in getting there and feeling the confidence, because so much in the beginning was, what will other people think of me based on what clothing I choose for these photo shoots, right? Like, um, what I'm writing on my website, how I'm describing it. And so I would say now, the branding that I have now, because it's really all about permission to be human and helping people to uncover their core values to truly ignite their authentic self. That's what it is. So now there's like no bullshit around, well, what would somebody else think? It's 100% of what makes me excited, right? When I look at it, I go, ooh, that's it. I have just this incredible graphic design partner that I've been working with, that I just really feel like she has figured out how to translate my soul into design.
Mm.
And it is such a beautiful experience. If anybody wants her information, feel free to reach out. I'd be happy to share it with you. She's phenomenal. But it was like the first time that it wasn't somebody trying to convince me to go more corporate, right? To be more acceptable. In fact, she was actually encouraging me to go bigger and bolder and more in alignment with what she experienced as me, the human. And there's no going back from here. Like
Yes,
now
yes.
it's like just more and more. And because I'm making this huge shift from literally just the piece of living in Baltimore City primarily, and really working in a corporate environment for the majority of my life and even my career as an entrepreneur, to now living in the mountains and truly on a quest to become a homesteading cowgirl, like literally doing those things. It's like, I can't imagine doing a photo shoot without a cowgirl hat on. Like, it's just weird if I didn't. Whereas MaryBeth 7 years ago was like, what will people think of me if I wear this cowgirl hat?
Yeah, I love that. It's beautiful because there's such a beautiful message for me. So Stella, who's my creative director, is your partner person on the design piece. And I can, and she'll do all the editing of this. And so I can imagine when she'll be listening to that, because she's been to me like, I don't know, I like the full embodiment of the color, Stacey. Like that feels really good. And I'm like, oh, I don't know. It's because I'm only right, like I'm literally just at the start of this journey coming from corporate professional, 2 years, 3 years in. So I love that. I love that message. And you said it. It is. I mean, really, it is about unlocking the essence of people's souls and being able to showcase that, because all of our souls have a signature.
Oh
And
yeah.
that signature essence is what our brand message really is. It's not the words, it's not the colors, it's the connected essence of those. So a person like your person, your part, designer, my Stella, like both of those type of people are so valuable into helping unlock. I couldn't do this without her.
Yes.
Right. Like she is and she's the push, that push behind when I'm a little like, the fear. Do I put this out there? This feels vulnerable. This feels, just send me the video, send me the raw video, and we'll pull it together. So I really, the importance of having those people in our lives and on our teams
Oh yeah.
is crucial.
Huge. And I think also having faith in your truth, right? Like
Yes.
it's amazing to have people to be a mirror and be like, but these are your colors, right? Like this is who you are. Like just as a reminder, you are this powerful, you are this bright, you are this, colorful. And also to have the inner faith of like, me showing up as me fully is what's going to attract the right people and repel the wrong ones. So it's
Yes.
actually a gift. It's like a gift. If I had just tested even out some of those limiting beliefs of, I can't have these bright colors, right, from the beginning, maybe I would have learned that I would have had more values aligned partners in the process. I don't know. I
Mm.
didn't allow myself the chance to actually explore that until many years later. And now it's just so abundantly clear of like, if I need to tone down the way I'm talking about something, we're not a good fit.
I'm not your person.
Yeah. And that's
Yeah.
that's great. I'm so glad that we're respecting each other's energy properly.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you. Thank you for your time. We have one last little section that we do, and this is kind of like the hot seat. And so I'll give you the beginning and you kind of fill in the blank, whatever comes up for you pretty quickly.
Okay.
Okay? So, are you ready?
I hope so. Here we go.
Okay. The value of working with a coach is
Priceless.
the book I always recommend.
The 4 agreements.
The superpower I bring to my clients.
Boundaries.
My first client taught me that.
Your wounds can become wisdom for others.
One non negotiable value I hold.
Connecting and experiencing unity with nature every day.
The wildest dream I'm chasing right now.
Well, I'm not chasing any dreams. So I want to just put that out there. I'm manifesting and I'm attracting them. They're not running away from me. They're coming in.
I love that. Yes, we're changing that now. The wildest dream I'm manifesting right now.
The wildest dream I'm manifesting right now is to create a life-changing experience where my horses are at the center of healing.
I recharge and refocus by
Being in nature.
if my coaching business were a song, it would be
This girl is on fire.
the biggest unlock I've learned being a coach.
People can change beautifully.
Who is the coach you most admire?
It's hard to say, coach. Oh, so do you mean like out in the world or like somebody?
Could be, or it could be on your own personal person.
Okay, my own personal person is not technically a coach, but my therapist, Dr. LaShawn Williams, is the person that I received the most transformative coaching and support from.
In 5 years, I hope people understand the coaching industry is
worth it.
MaryBeth Hyland, so glad to have you today. Executive alignment coach. If people want to connect with you, how can they do that?
I'm super active on LinkedIn. That's actually how Stacy and I got connected. But you can also come and reach out to me directly. My website is sparkvisionnow.com. And if you're interested in speaking, it's marybethspeaks.com. So looking forward to connecting with anybody who wants to continue the conversation.
Thank you, MaryBeth.